Welcome Dr. Di Sanchez and the Leadership and Team Development class from Amberton University. My name is Erica Reber, and today I will be presenting my graduate project titled Authentic Leadership, Does It Matter? Topics I will be discussing during this presentation are as follows. Introduction, including a hypothesis statement, literature review, study limitations and suggestions, methodology, my findings, my study limitations, conclusion, and finally I will cite my sources. Leadership is an extremely important part of management in any industry, as it helps to maximize organizational efficiency and achieve organizational goals. Proper leadership helps employees with motivation, guidance, confidence, productive work environments, and keeping morale high, just to name a few. Good leadership inspires people to reach their potential and achieve success. However, is good leadership only about the bottom line? In a time of some very severe and public corporate scandals, such as Enron, Fannie Mae, and Lehman Brothers, it seems the time has come to emphasize not just how gregarious or charismatic a leader is, but also how trustworthy, ethical, and authentic they are. Interest in authentic leadership is understandably on the rise. The study of authentic leadership focuses on what makes an authentic leader and how leading with genuine conviction is an important part of authenticity. Some view life experience and the meaning derived from those life experiences as key to this authenticity, while others view authentic leadership as something that can be created and is not necessarily a fixed trait. There are a number of recent researchers studying whether authentic leadership is just part of a personality trait or if it is something that can be developed, or perhaps it's gained through a major life event. All are questions looking for answers. Authentic leaders are described by Hoch and her colleagues as those that are ranked highly on moral character and are also deeply aware of how they think and behave and are perceived by others as being aware of their own and others' values and morals, perspectives, knowledge, and strength. Transparency and forthrightness in one's actions are products of trustworthiness and integrity, and authentic leaders are both. They participate in a system where the well-being of their followers is of top priority. Most importantly, authentic leaders have been described as adding ethical qualities to other positive forms of leadership. This research project will explore the impact authentic leadership has on the productivity and engagement of followers in a corporate setting. Bill George developed the authentic leadership approach and has focused on the characteristics of authentic leaders, and also how leaders can develop these qualities. He purports that authentic leaders demonstrate the following 5 characteristics: passion and purpose, behavior and values, connectedness and relationships, compassion and heart, and consistency and self-discipline. George's approach is considered a practical approach as he found traits one is required to obtain in order to become an authentic leader. For this project, I will be using Bill George's 5 characteristics of authentic leadership. Throughout my research, I predicted I would find a direct correlation between the traits associated with authentic leadership, which were passion, purpose, behavior, values, connectedness, relationships, consistency, self-discipline, and compassion, heart, and the job satisfaction, productivity, and engagement of the follower in a corporate setting. A major question that came into my mind during my research was, what is the difference between a transformational leader who is also an authentic leader and a transformational leader who is not? Bass and Steinmeier argue that in order for a leader to be truly transformational, he or she must have a moral foundation. Though the argument exists that Saddam Hussein, Pol Pot, and Mother Teresa were all transformational leaders, Bass and Steinmeier make the argument that those who do not have a moral and ethical foundation are not authentic and are therefore not truly transformational. A leader without the authenticity is an inauthentic leader and is considered simply a, quote, pseudo-transformational leader. They purport that only if the underlying values are morally uplifting could a leader be considered transforming. While many heinous leaders throughout history may have been transformational, they were inauthentic and instead tyrants. They purport that a pseudo-transformational leader may mislead or deceive their followers, where the authentic are inwardly and outwardly concerned about the good of the group or society they are responsible for. According to Bass and Steinmeier, pseudo-transformational leaders can be immoral, but authentic transformational leaders cannot. In 2017, Rodriguez and his colleagues performed a study of 323 people who were at least 18 years of age, employed, and under the direction of a leader. The results from this study found that authentic leadership significantly predicted all types of job satisfaction. In addition, authentic leadership predicted this above and beyond what transformational leadership did. More specifically, a leader's perceived morals and ethics were a significant predictor of intrinsic job satisfaction, and their self-awareness was found to be a significant predictor of extrinsic job satisfaction. Intrinsic job satisfaction was meant as the result of examining opportunities for personal growth in the workplace, while extrinsic job satisfaction was determined by examining the effects of rules, policies, and procedures in the workplace. It is understandable why extrinsic job satisfaction would be so closely related to the leadership style of a corporate employee, as leaders often play a large role in the creation of work conditions such as salary, office space, and team creation. And though leaders did have an effect on intrinsic job satisfaction, it was less likely to affect a worker's intrinsic job satisfaction than extrinsic. This study found authentic and transformational leadership to be very closely connected. In a 2013 study, Thomas H. Tonkin set out to discover whether authentic leadership is more effective than other leadership approaches and to what extent an employee's organizational citizenship behavior was predicted by it. In addition, it sought to find whether overall job satisfaction was related more to authentic leadership than to transformational leadership. Tonkin used a sample of 129 staff members from the same organization to participate in an online survey. The survey measured the followers' perception of the leader's authenticity in addition to their job satisfaction. The study concluded that overall job satisfaction was positively and significantly correlated to all characteristics of authentic leadership. In a study published in 2016, Hawk and her colleagues used meta-analysis, among other methods, to compare authentic leadership, ethical leadership, and servant leadership with that of transformational leadership to discover the association between them. They aimed to discover whether transformational leadership was linked with authentic, ethical, and servant leadership. All three of these forms are ethical and moral, value-based forms of leadership, and they wanted to see if they added to the dominant transformational theory. They found that there was a high correlation between all four of these leadership forms, and that they all had high associations and redundancies. authentic leadership and transformational leadership had the highest correlations, while transformational and servant leadership had the lowest. In other words, transformational leaders are also likely to be considered authentic leaders as well. Hawk and her colleagues also found that all three leadership forms, authentic, ethical, and servant, explain significant incremental variance in trust in supervisor, and they argue that the moral and ethical dimensions is an important part of the transformational leadership theory that is missing. By including the ethical, moral dimensions to transformational leadership, the leader could be even more effective in predicting follower outcomes. Bass and Steinmeier discussed their points of view and arguments thoroughly and robustly, and though they did not perform any of their own research, they used a great deal of other research when discussing their arguments. However, because this article was published in 1999, it is not extremely current. With all the research that has been done since 1999, it would be interesting to see whether any of their arguments or conclusions evolved. In the study conducted by Rodriguez and his colleagues, they were unable to clearly delineate between authentic leadership and transformational leadership. In addition, the scope of the results is somewhat limited because those who were selected for the study responded affirmatively to the request for participation through a lead researcher's social network, making this a very limited sample. These surveys were also done via email, which might limit some of the responders to those working adults who work in close proximity to a computer, which also limits the sample of participants. The sample was, however, very evenly split between male and female participants. It also included a variety of ethical diversity and educational level diversity. A major limitation in the Tonkin study was that the participants all came from the same organization. This could affect credibility and the ability to generalize the findings to all followers. Another limitation stems from the fact that the survey that was used tended to allow participants to skew findings based on the fact that they might give answers they think the researcher is looking for. All of these, however, are common issues in research and do not strike all credibility from the study. Though there have been many studies conducted on the effectiveness of differing leadership styles, it seems the research has been overly reliant on meta-analysis based studies. Because authentic leadership theory is a fairly new concept, more studies should be done on the importance of authentic leadership and how effective this leadership form is in a corporate setting. I was unable to find any study that has used significantly large samples of followers from vast industries and organizational management levels in order to find results that can truly be generalized. Hopefully, in the future, researchers are able to find more definitive results to the question of what types of traits are most important in a leader. To add to the research that I have done, I collected data through a survey. I used participants from my own social and professional network of corporate employees by sending an invitation to participate in an online questionnaire via email. This online questionnaire was created through quicksurvey.com, and I attempted to find a correlation between a leader's level of authenticity and the followers' productivity, engagement, and job satisfaction. My survey was similar to the study that Tonkin conducted, as we both measured the followers' perceptions of their leader's authenticity and then their corresponding job satisfaction. However, in addition to job satisfaction, I also asked them to rank overall productivity and engagement they felt as well. And specifically, I looked at the followers' perceptions of their boss or manager and each of Bill George's 5 characteristics of an authentic leader. As you can see, question 1 discusses the leader's passion and purpose. Question 2 is regarding their behavior and values. Question 3, their relationship and connectedness. Question 4, their self-discipline and consistency. And question 5, their compassion and heart. Following the questions about the perceived characteristic of their boss, the participants were asked to rank their overall job satisfaction, productivity, and engagement in their work. All questions were to be answered using a 5-point scale, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I was able to receive 28 responses to my survey. One of the first things I noticed while gathering the data received from my survey was the low relationship and connectedness levels these participants reported they had with their boss or manager. Only 21.4% of participants reported that they had a good relationship, rating it as 4 or 5 on the 5-point scale. 50% reported they had a fair relationship, rating it 3 of 5, and 28.6% reported they had a poor relationship, rating it as either a 1 or a 2 on the 5-point scale. I separated these participants into groups based on their level of job satisfaction, productivity, and engagement. And even in a high satisfaction, high productivity, and high engagement groups, I found that relationships between leader and follower were reported as being surprisingly poor. Even the most highly satisfied participants, only 28.6% felt they had a good relationship. The low satisfaction, low productivity, and low engagement group showed an even worse picture. 100% of those in low satisfaction group reported having a poor relationship, rated as a 1 or a 2 on the 5-point scale. The same was true among the low engagement group. And among the low productivity group, which was the smallest group, they reported only having fair relationships with their boss or manager. While assessing which authentic leader characteristic, as discovered by Bill George, were possessed by the participant's leader, some characteristics seemed to have a greater correlation with job satisfaction, productivity, and engagement than others. Passion and purpose seemed not to have much effect on satisfaction, productivity, or engagement. The same was true about the leader's perceived behavior and values. Relationship and connectedness, however, did have an obvious correlation to satisfaction, productivity, and engagement. Though all groups reported having a surprisingly low relationship with their leader, the low satisfaction, low productivity, and low engagement groups had a much worse relationship. Not one participant in a low group reported having a good relationship with their leader. Job satisfaction and engagement at work were even slightly more correlated with the relationship and connectedness than productivity was. It was more common to have a productive follower with a poor relationship with their leader than it was the others. Self-discipline and consistency was another characteristic that was highly correlated with job satisfaction, productivity, and engagement. 100% of all those in low satisfaction, low productivity, and low engagement groups reported that their boss or manager was poor at self-discipline and or consistency. That means each participant ranked them either a 1 or a 2 out of 5 in this category. Compassion and heart did not seem to have a significant effect on job satisfaction, productivity, or engagement. The 3 authentic leader characteristics that were not correlated, which were passion, purpose, behavior, values, and compassion and heart, were ranked highly among all the groups. The participants' job satisfaction, productivity, or engagement seemed to have no relation to those categories. The study I conducted certainly has its limitations. I did not have the time or resources to complete a proper study on the correlation between a leader's authenticity and their followers' work satisfaction, productivity, and engagement. One issue was the sample size I used was much too small to make any true generalizations among all corporate employees. Another was there was very little diversity among the participants I used, as they were all my close contacts. The participants all belonged to roughly the same network. There was very little ethnic diversity, diversity in age, or diversity in employment level, as most of them were mid-range employees. There were, however, an equal number of males and females. The questions I asked were also far too simple. It would have been more accurate had I been able to provide them with examples of scenarios and had them report how they think their boss would react or respond. This way, I would be the one to determine the characteristic levels the leader possessed, instead of leaving it to the participant. It would have also been a good idea to look deeper into the participant's level of satisfaction, productivity, and engagement. Additionally, some open-ended questions could have been helpful to determine if the participants felt there was another reason for their satisfaction, productivity, and engagement levels. For instance, their boss might be completely authentic, but they might have had bad experiences with coworkers, or vice versa. There remains doubt as to whether the participants' feelings about work were due to causation or simply correlation. This was a simple study that should in no way be generalized to the wider public, but it was interesting to gather the information and to get a deeper insight into the relationship leaders have with followers. It is well known that the right leader can move mountains. They can influence, transform, motivate, and inspire. However, a poor leader can do just the opposite, and it is an understatement to say that not all leaders are good leaders. In fact, according to Tonkin, 60 to 70% of employees report that the most stressful part of their job is related to their immediate supervisor. In addition, my survey found that a surprising number of followers felt they did not have a good relationship with their boss or manager. I found that authenticity among leaders was important, especially when it came to the relationship and connectedness followers have with them, as well as how consistent the leader is with his or her followers. Good leadership in an organization should be one of, if not the top priorities. Good leadership helps keep employees satisfied, engaged, and productive. And finding which type of leadership is the most effective is part of that process. Finding transformational leaders can make a huge difference in an organization, and genuine transformational leaders must also be authentic. This concludes my presentation. Here's a list of the resources I used. Thank you for listening.